This is Jocko Podcast number 131 with Echo Charles and me, Jocko Willink. Good evening, Echo.
Good evening.
It is time for some Q&A.
Yes.
Should we banter around for a while or should we just get started?
Question number 1. I've been somewhat of a pushover for the majority of my life. Since listening to the podcast, I've been trying to assert myself more. One thing I can't seem to shake is constantly being interrupted. How can I rise above and overcome this obstacle? Should I read the hashtag?
The hashtag fellow hardcore kids. Hey, there you go.
Hey,
hardcore.
Yeah.
And there's a little layer in there because you put rise above in there. So,
Sure.
you know, I thought about this because I would say I don't get interrupted a lot.
Yeah.
But I think that's kind of the current state of me.
Sure.
And I think there's a reason why I don't get interrupted a lot. And it's not because, people are going to think, oh, well, that's because you're going to bash people in the head with a club. Mm-hmm. That's not the actual answer of why I don't get interrupted.
Yeah.
So one thing I think is important is, you've heard me say this before, the less people talk, the more people listen. So when I'm in a group of people that all want to talk and they all want to talk over each other and they want to cut each other off, you get in that group right there, I don't talk.
Yeah.
I don't talk. I sit there, I listen to them, and I plot. And I think, and I put together my thoughts correctly so that when I do decide to say something, it's going to have impact. And then I wait for the right moment, right? Because if there's people that are bickering back and forth, I wait for a lull in the fire. And when that lull comes, then I make my point in a very direct manner. I might even have to wait until the conversation is like all but over. Wait till they're done with their little firefight. Yep, 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 yep. And then I'm gonna talk. Like they're done. Mm-hmm. And when I talk, I'm gonna do it, since I've been thinking about it, it's gonna be articulated in a way that I can present my full point. And so I think that's an effective way to do things. I think if you let people speak a bunch, you let them get it out of their system, and then when you decide to talk, they don't have anything left to say. So that's a way to stop getting cut off. So this is almost like flanking, right? This is flanking the fact that when people have a bunch to say and they got all these thoughts in their head and they want to get them all out, let them get them out. Don't try and fight that battle. They've got a bunch of things they want to say, let them say it. Also, as we know, when you listen to someone else talk, you now know what their ideas are.
Yeah.
You know what they're thinking. There's a power in not saying anything because it allows you to think, and it allows you to hear what other people think, and it allows you to hear other people. So in a conversation, you get to hear other people's counters to what people are saying. And you're not having to expend any ammunition yourself. Someone else is doing it. The third or fourth or fifth person in the conversation that's expending ammunition and running their mouth to try and counter some point that someone's made. Let them do that. Because by the way, then you get to see what the other counter is. So I think being assertive doesn't mean talking more. I think being assertive means talking less, talking at the appropriate times, monitoring and understanding the firefight that's happening so that when other people have expended their ammunition, you can step in and you can take your shots in a simple, clear, concise manner. That's what I think.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think you built up this reputation, though. That's a little added element to your specific situation.
Which is
where when you talk, it like you're not saying fluff. When you talk, it's like something.
Well, that's a good point. So if you don't want to get cut off and 70% of the things that you say aren't really that impactful and don't add a lot to the conversation, well, then there's a good chance that when you open your mouth to start talking, someone else doesn't think it's going to be important, so they just jump right on top of you.
Yeah.
But if you say less, and to your point, if the things that you say generally are well thought out and clear and are going to have impact, well, then we have a good chance that you're not going to be cut off because people actually want to hear what you're going to say.
Yeah.
Don't talk just to talk ever.
Yeah, see, and that's a hard one.
I shouldn't say ever, but hardly ever.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a hard one. because and it's not like people are interrupting you on purpose because you don't have nothing to say. Like you're just talking fluff. That's not, it's not a conscious on purpose thing a lot of the time. I think anyway. It doesn't feel like it is. It feels like it's like subconscious, Like how can someone see fit to actually follow through with interrupting somebody if they don't think like, okay, this isn't quite that important. At the very least, what I'm about to interrupt with is more important.
So you're saying some people think that what they're about to say is really important.
Yeah.
Here's another thing. It's like the little boy that cried wolf, right? If I talk and talk and talk and talk and talk, I'm taking away the value of each one of those statements that I make because I'm making so many statements that not all of them can have a high level of value. Yeah. So who do you pay more attention to? The person that makes 100 statements?
Yeah.
And what are those? Okay, let's say you want to pay attention to the person that makes 100 statements. How much can you pay attention to those 100 statements? How much do you gather from those 100 statements?
Yeah.
It's a limited amount.
Yeah.
It's 1% per statement, right? Well, it's 1%. You have to. Well, the guy makes 100 statements. That's 1% per statement. Yeah. If the person says one thing, how much percent do you pay attention to that?
100%.
That's right. You said it, 100%. So there you go.
Yeah, it makes sense, dude.
Check. Good luck with that, fellow hardcore kid.
So I guess he'd kind of have, assuming that, we understand his situation overall, it's kind of like you have to build a reputation of saying only important things. That's a good place to start. Just be quiet.
Yeah.
And not only like exactly what you said, that added thing, which you kind of actually may have already said, but when you sit back and just listen to him, it'll cause you to have to say less, because what if you wanted to like, oh, I was going to make this point. That's the feeling you get when you want to interrupt someone, like, oh, I want to make this point right now kind of thing. You will find out, you just let people talk. You don't have to make that point. Mm-hmm. They know this stuff already, all that, and you'll find that's probably a lot of the time, So
and by the way, if I step in to make a point that people already know, how impactful is that point? It's of very limited impact. Mm-hmm. So the more points that you can hear that you know and that everyone knows and that you don't have to say, the better off you are. So when you do make a point, and it's a point that no one really thought of, how impactful is that point?
Yeah.
The answer is it's very impactful.
Yeah, and it comes way more clear that it might be a point that no one thought of after you listen to everyone talk for however long. Then it's like, oh, wait, this wasn't covered, so I can say this.
Yes.
I don't have to say all these other things that I was probably going to interrupt with or whatever. Yeah, just be quiet, right?
Just be quiet.
And in social situations, for example, to me, and this is what I kind of started doing, or tried to start doing, in social situations, you know how like, okay, I listen to my wife and her friends talking. It's just a boom, boom, interrupting. It's not rude or nothing. Mm-hmm. It's just because they're just talking and
that's how they roll.
Yeah, that's how they roll. And to the point where I'm getting like little mild micro doses of anxiety because of all the interruptions. Yeah, it's like a lot. They just talk a lot. That's what it is. Anyway, so I found in social situations, if I feel that, like if I'm like trying to talk or that I'm getting interrupted a lot, man, in a way, they don't really care that much about what you have to say. They have more, like, they care more about what they have to say. And it's a social situation. So yeah, you might as well just be quiet. You're adding less value interrupting their valuable stuff, So
True.
Just be quiet. And you'll find that they'll want to talk to you more too if you be quiet and not interrupt them. You might have to take some heavies on the interruption front, though, because that is kind of annoying if you pay attention to it. That's what I think. I see what you're doing right now.